You have found what lights you up. I'm your host, Sunny the Life Coach, and I'm here because I see you searching for something or someone out there to help you feel better. Something to take away the pain that you're feeling, the inadequacies. I know all of the things that happen in life can leave you feeling empty. Your search is over. This podcast is all about finding your own freedom and power to love yourself enough to shine in the ways you were always meant to, the ways in which you are already fully capable of. If you're ready for some real talk, some serious truth bombs, and a few F-bombs, you are in the right place. Let's do this. Let's get lit. Hello, welcome to episode 8. This is so exciting. It is May 20th as I am recording this. So it will be published on the 21st, but stay-at-home orders have mostly been lifted here in Texas. We can go to hair and nail salons, get massages, go to the gym, all of the intimate things now. Oh boy. We are, as a family, still hanging around the house. I mean, I always do anyway. Nothing really changed for me with the lockdown. Just the fact that I couldn't go anywhere. I do miss meeting up with people in person, but I know that eventually I'll be able to do so again. How are you all holding up? I hope you're hanging in there. This time that we're in is definitely strange. But it's also kind of wonderful in terms of slowing down and spending time with our families and ourselves that we haven't been accustomed to. I'm really getting to know the other humans who live in this house. They seem nice. So even if you're listening to this a year from now, I hope you can reflect back on this time with something that you've learned from it. Which brings me to my topic today. I made a commitment to touch on the most difficult emotions I can think of during the month of May, and it's been a good exercise for me. It's been good for me to really dig deep and talk about things that we generally just push aside when we should be honestly facing them head on. I've got enough guilt to start my own religion. This is from the song Crucify by Tori Amos, and I swear that one line gets me because I have been able to identify with it so much in the past. Oh, guilt is such a heavy emotion, and one that we very often trip with for much longer than we really need to, which is why I want to highlight it in this episode. Why do we feel guilt? First of all, if you've been listening to this podcast, you're probably not a psychopath. You are a normal human being who has feelings. Some feelings will be fantastic and some are going to be downright awful. You do not get to choose to feel only the great emotions. Life is going to be a balance, always, always. From a cognitive point of view, guilt is an emotion that people experience because they're convinced they've caused harm. And where does the emotion or feeling come from? Your thoughts, of course. It's not about what you did or said, what you didn't do or say. The emotion of guilt comes directly from the thought that you are responsible for someone else's misfortune, whether or not this is the case. Okay? Whether or not that you really did. Okay, I can't help myself. I have to do this because I'm already picking up on a theme with some of the words I've used. So let's do it. Let's say we're back in that movie. The one that is your life as you seem to watch it play out when in reality you're directing it all in your mind. Today's genre is drama. Because remember, we love a good drama. Specifically, this one is going to be an Oscar-worthy courtroom drama. You can't handle the truth. But I think you can. That's why I even described this podcast as providing you with truth bombs. Of course you can handle the truth, and I'm going to throw it down for you. You simply have to be open and willing to learn something new, to view your movie from an entirely different perspective than you have in the past. Before I get further into the courtroom drama analogy, let me repeat that cognitive perspective of where the emotion of guilt comes from. It comes directly from the thought that you are responsible for someone else's misfortune, whether or not this is the case. How do you know you are responsible for misfortune? How do you know that it's the case? Here's your truth bomb. The only thing you know is what you think. You do not know what someone else thinks. I don't care how strongly you believe that you do, I can assure you that you do not. No one has the ability to get in someone's head and download their thoughts. It is not possible. You also do not have the ability to hurt someone's feelings. What? No, this is absolutely true. If someone is hurt, quote unquote, because of something you did, that's just not true. They are hurt because of their thoughts about what you did. What you did would be the circumstance in their model. Now, you can say, but Sunny, she told me that what I did hurt her, so I know it's true, and now I feel guilty. Okay, well, what she told you goes in your circumstance line. What she told you was neutral. They are simply words, nothing more. They only have meaning when you have thought about them, followed by a feeling. And so it's true that all of the words we say to one another all day, every day, are really nothing more than words or sentences. That's all they ever are. The actions we take are simply the things that we do until someone else has a thought about them. If someone cuts you off in traffic, that's just a circumstance until you have the thought, you're an asshole. And that's what makes you angry, not the act itself, your thought about it. Just a little background if this happens to be the first episode of mine that you're hearing, and a refresher for returning listeners. Your thoughts create your feelings, not what anyone else around you does or says. You're going to hear this from me over and over until you really begin to understand it, because it's such a core concept of how we go about this life of ours. Yet, no one teaches us how to manage our thoughts. It's not part of the curriculum in school. Most of our parents weren't taught this either, so it hasn't been part of our upbringing at all. I see so many people every day raging and miserable because of the things other people around them are doing, and I want to scream, it's all neutral. Check your thoughts. And so, if this is true, that your thoughts create your feelings, and that it's the same for every human, then it can't really be possible for you to hurt someone else's feelings, can it? Their pain comes from their own thoughts. Mind blown. No, we were not taught about how thoughts work, and that learning to manage them is truly the key to having the best experience of this life possible. The best experience means the richest and deepest one, and that's going to include the awful emotions as well. What we were taught is that feeling guilt is necessary when we do something bad. When we were very young, we learned this through a combination of our parents, teachers, and certainly religious institutions if they were integral to our upbringing. I've been exposed just enough to teachings of Christianity to understand there are all kinds of opportunities for guilt to be laid out in those stories. We are, in fact, taught that we are responsible for other people's feelings. We hear, "You hurt Timmy's feelings. Don't you feel bad? Apologize." We hear this enough on repeat in enough different scenarios that it is soon ingrained in our psyche that we are, in fact, bearing the responsibility for someone else's misfortune. Perhaps the actions they took lead them to make poor decisions in life, and it's all because you made them feel bad. Oh man, enter the guilt. And a more important question than why we feel it in the first place is, why do we bathe ourselves in it? When I think of the emotion of guilt and the dark places that we at times allow ourselves to go because we trip around with it for so long, I try to come up with sentences in my mind that lead me to feel guilty in the first place. What were those sentences that I told myself? What were the thoughts that I had? Of course, we already have this perception that we have wronged another human in some way, and from there, the sentences that will present in my brain might go something like, "I shouldn't have said that. I wish I hadn't done that. I regret that I didn't do that. I was wrong to lie. I shouldn't have drunk so much last night. I shouldn't have drunk at all." Now, I realize that some of these sentences may conjure up feelings of regret rather than guilt. I even use the word in one of my thought examples, I believe. Yeah, while they are two different emotions, I do personally view them as close cousins because honestly, both come from shoulding all over ourselves. I should have said this instead, done it this way instead. This is important. Both emotions come from a place of reflecting back on a past event and wishing it had played out differently. However, here we are. When we start shoulding, we are always coming from a place of judgment. We are judging ourselves for our actions that, by the way, cannot be undone. And from that place, we start dishing out our own punishment, don't we? That's where the courtroom drama comes in. I know it took me a bit to get back to it, but I haven't forgotten that analogy because it works for me as I think about what we often do with feelings of guilt or regret. We become the judge, the jury, and the executioner to ourselves. The person we have wronged is on the witness stand, pointing you out as the offender in front of a packed courtroom. Every finger in the room is pointing at me. The witness is telling you that you hurt her feelings because of what you did. And sometimes the person on that stand is you. You were both the victim and the defendant. You can't deny that you did in fact say it, so enter the judgment. I shouldn't have said that. Judgment. Every time you say should. Now, how do you execute yourself? How do you crucify yourself? We can go right back to those song lyrics. Nothing I do is good enough for you. Ah, there it is. Or we take it further down the hole of negative self-talk. What's wrong with me? I'm just a loser. I'm a horrible person. Whatever. The truth is, and remember, you can handle the truth. I've decided to make it so. The truth is that you are a fallible human who sometimes makes mistakes. That's it. That's all there is to it. To be clear, I'm not implying that guilt and regret are feelings that won't come up for you. Of course, if you have even the slightest amount of love and compassion for others, you're going to feel that at some point because you're going to say or do something wrong, or you're going to let someone down by not following through with something. It happens. What I'm saying is that when you start spinning around in your guilt trip cycle in your brain, that's where the damage is done. That's where you start crucifying yourself, kicking yourself around, beating yourself up for something that you can't take back and you can't undo. There is no take two of that scene. It's already played out. The theater is long empty, and you're still tripping around about something that happened hours ago, days ago, or even years ago. That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about that can be so very damaging. And for what? This is where I get very curious and I wonder why we keep that negative self-talk going. I think this usually occurs when the incident is unresolved, at least in your mind. Of course, you could have offered apologies or attempted to make amends, and those offers may or may not have been received at the time. Better yet, if it was a scene that included drinking, you may not even remember. Those are truly the most unfortunate of all because you make yourself feel awful for something that happened when you weren't even lucid. Maybe parts of it come back to you, or perhaps you were too afraid or even ashamed to respond in a way at the time, and you just avoided it altogether, hoping the discomfort would go away on its own. Guilt can lead to those emotions too. Once your thoughts start spinning in that zone of regret, shame is definitely tied to guilt. I wouldn't even say cousins. I would say shame is the sister of guilt. And shame can be relentless if you aren't wise to her. Regardless of whatever you did or didn't do to correct what amounts to a mistake that you made, you cannot live the rest of your days replaying that scene and beating yourself up. Yes, some mistakes are bigger than others in terms of their impact, but we all make them. We don't all make the same mistakes. Some of us take a few more turns than others to get it right. Whatever right means to you, because ultimately that comes from your values, as defined by your upbringing, societal standards, and your own experiences. You form values and standards to which you hold yourself and others. Everyone has their own set of customized values. It's so critical to always remember that mistakes are how we learn. We will continue to make them. We will continue to have learning experiences in this life. And if the brain loves a villain and a good story full of drama, as I've mentioned before, it also loves a good martyr. You don't get to assume the role of martyr and endure endless suffering from your own negative self-talk and come out of it as a person who feels well and whole. There's no upside to doing this. There's no reward in some afterlife for bearing the heavy burdens of your guilt like a lifelong prison sentence. It doesn't matter what you've done or when you did it. You're still a human, worthy of love. Humans make mistakes. Mistakes are lessons to learn from. So yes, the feelings of guilt or regret are ones that we will need to experience. We can't close ourselves off from them. As I said, that could well leave them in that unresolved state and resurfacing over and over again. But these emotions in particular are ones that you need to acknowledge right away. Feel them all the way through and then move on. When those vibrations in your body present themselves, take them as signals that you need to do some self-exploration to get yourself back on track. You need to break out the curiosity. What is this I'm feeling? And how can I learn and grow from it? Talk to yourself as you would talk to the love of your life. Honestly, that's what you should be doing every single day, and I'm the first to admit that it is not always easy to do. It takes constant practice and reminding. talk to yourself as you would talk to the love of your life and give yourself the gift of forgiveness and the resolution that comes with it, regardless of the status of the outcome from the original grievance that you believe you've caused. You could even write a letter to yourself, which is a very powerful exercise, putting pen to paper. In your letter, you could say something like, "Hey, I believe someone was hurt. Maybe I even hurt myself by breaking a commitment. I can't take it back, but I can move forward. I have learned from this experience. I now know how to live better, not bitter. It's time to heal, and it's time to let this go." I don't know about you, but I felt such a shift in everything when I truly began to see our thoughts as the cause of all our feelings, both good and bad. The way, in fact, that I do experience life now is forever changed from knowing this, and that knowledge alone feels amazing. And I've often thought, I wish I had known this 10 or 20 years ago, but then I catch myself because that feels a little like regret. And I remind myself that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be right now on this day, in this moment in time. Now I know. And I won't regret not having known this years ago. Because although the knowing is indeed life-changing, that doesn't mean I don't still make mistakes. It just means that I can recover from them quicker than I did before. I just have to extend gratitude for having what I have now and for having the ability to share it with as many people as possible from this moment on. Now that feels amazing. It's never too late to learn new things, especially things that will serve you forever in every scenario, every movie scene that plays out from this point forward. If in fact you're paying attention, you'll find those learning experiences and you will grow stronger. You will have a deeper, richer experience in this life of yours. And now it's time for a quote from Steve Maraboli. "We all make mistakes, have struggles, and even regret things in our past. But you are not your mistakes. You are not your struggles. And you are here now with the power to shape your day and your future." Boom. Thanks for listening. We are almost 10 episodes in, and I hope you are beginning to see and feel some of the ways you can light the fuck up through your own power and truly start to love your life again. Or for the first time. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Sunny the Life Coach. I'd love to connect with you. Please consider leaving me a review on Apple Podcast or sharing with your friends so that others can find me too. Sending you love and light on this day, whatever day it is that you hear this. Shine on.